There is another argument for the objectivity of the world, namely that it appears the same to all observers. It is questionable whether the world appears the same to all. It is common experience that there are wide differences among men in their views of the world. But let us suppose that there is a substantial agreement among all observers. The sage tells us that this argument is invalid because it involves the false assumption that there are different observers. The sage explains the apparent agreement among observers as being due to the fact that there is only one observer in all of them. Hence, the uniformity of the world appearance is not due to the reality of the world. Thus, the argument fails. The truth is this. The mind itself, by its own power of self-deception, creates hypothetical world corresponding to its sensations, along with the container of the world, a so-called outside, and projects it into the outside. This creation and projection are involuntary and unconscious processes, and hence the mind never questions the existence of an outside and of an objective world in this outside. If the mind consciously and deliberately created the world, it would be able to create a much pleasanter world. It is unable to do this because the process of creation is not conscious. This we see in dreams. There the mind creates its own dream world, but it is no more pleasant than this waking world. Often it is worse, as in nightmares, which are like hell. That the mind has this power of self-deception, itself creating a world and being deceived by it, is what we call in actual experience. We have just now seen that this power is the cause of dreams. The dream world appears real while the dream lasts. If in the dream, the dreamer doubts the reality of what he sees and tries to find out the truth, he always concludes not that he is dreaming, but that he is wide awake. In fact, nature never allows anyone to go on dreaming and at the same time know that he is dreaming, at least for any sustained amount of time. But this power can be seen at work in waking too. By its power of abstraction, the mind can impart to whatever it imagines a semblance of reality, by which it is itself deceived for the time being, just as in dreams. The sense of reality varies according to the concentration of the mind and the consequent vividness of the mental images created. When the witnessing happens of a well-planned and well-acted play on a stage, we are deceived into a belief, however short-lived, that what we see is real. The same thing happens when we are reading a novel written by a great literary artist. In both these cases, the characters and events have no real existence, but they rouse powerful emotions in us because of the illusion of reality created by the artist and assisted by our own imagination. If the illusion be feeble, as when the skill of the artist is not up to the mark, the emotions aroused, if any, are also feeble, and we are not deceived. It is a fact that so far as unintentional creation is concerned, all living beings are endowed with a higher degree of artistic skill than any artist that has ever existed. We think that children have a much higher degree of this power than adults. We fail to notice the same power in ourselves because our mental creations are disciplined by the drill at school, conditioned, and in the drudgery of life into a degree of uniformity with the creations of other minds, whose very existence is itself a creation of the mind. We are aware of this self-deception in every case in which it comes to an end, just as on waking from a dream, on laying down a book, or on the curtain falling on a play. When, however, the illusion is not lifted, naturally we are able to see that we are being deceived. The only way to end this self-deception is to win the direct experience of the true self. There is no other way. We shall see later when we discuss the three states of our life in ignorance, in contradistinction from the egoless state, that the experience is the waking from this dream of relativity and bondage. The sage has given us further proofs of the untenability of the belief in the reality of the world as such. Distinctions in variety are the very life and soul of the world appearance. All these are progeny, says the sage, of the primal ignorance, the Mula Maya. Among these distinctions we find time and space. Have we any proof that time and space are objective realities? If there be no proof to that effect, then it will be ridiculous to contend that the world is real as such. Philosophers of the West from the time of Kant have been familiar with the theory that space, time, and causality are the mind's creation. Recent developments in physical science, beginning with the theory of relativity enunciated by Einstein, make the case stronger still. But the strongest argument against the truth of time and space is that given to us by the sage of Arunachala, which we shall study in due course. According to Einstein, time and space are not two distinct realities. There is only one thing that can be said to exist, namely space-time. Not two things, space and time. But this space-time is never directly experienced. It is just a hypothetical entity which is assumed by physicists in order to help them to understand, or at least think they understand, physical phenomena. No layman, no one who is not a mathematical physicist, can ever understand this space-time. The world thus conceived is no longer an objective reality, but an abstraction represented by a mathematical equation. Thus the scientists have proved to us that time and space are illusions arising in a thing called space-time. But this new entity has not even the testimony of sense experience in its favor. We shall now see what we can learn from the sage, and he is emphatic that neither time nor space is real when he says, "Where are time and space apart from the sense of I? If we were the same as bodies, then it could be said that we are in time and space. But are we bodies? We are the same at all times and in all places. Hence, we are reality, which transcends time and space." Time and space are mental forms coming into existence subjectively after the ego sense. In sleep, there is neither time nor space. When we awake, there sprouts up the ego, saying, "I am the body." It thus creates time and space and locates therein the body and the world. When the ego sets in sleep, all these things cease also. Therefore it is said that time and space have no existence apart from the ego. And the ego and the mind are practically the same. Therefore they are mental. If it be objective that we have the experience of being bound and held in time and space, the sage answers that this is an illusion, due to the notion, "I am the body." The body alone is in time and space. What then are we? What is our true nature? The sage tells us that we are neither the body nor the mind, but the eternal I am, which is unchangeable, and which runs like a thread through the succession of thoughts. In every thought there is this I am. I am young. I am grown up. I am old. I am a male. I am righteous. Or I am a sinner. In all these thoughts, the I am is the constant factor. It never changes its nature. It only seems to do so by the confusion of the real self, who is this I am, or presence beingness, with the body. And this confusion gives rise to the ego sense. Time and place appear in and by this I am, but do not affect it. This I am is not a thought of the mind. It is the real self, transcending time and space. We should reject the varying thoughts that pass and isolate the pure I am, which is the self, known as Atman. If we do so, says the sage, we shall find that he is timeless and spaceless. And since these do not survive the death of the ego, they are unreal. We may here take this to heart. Reality is that which exists in the egoless state. It is possible that some of us may be perplexed rather than convinced by these considerations. But only the most obtuse-minded can resist the conclusion that there is no clear evidence to show that time and space and the world that seems to fill them are objective realities, existing independently of the mind that imagines them. The following consideration may be of some help. Time and space are always imagined to be infinite. We cannot help imagining so. But there is no proof that they are infinite. When we dream, we find both time and space, and as our dream has a beginning, we ought, if we are seeing reality, to be able to know, and then and there in the dream, that the dream time had a beginning. But we are not able to do so. Only when we awake do we find out that we were mistaken. There is no substantial difference between dream time and waking time in this respect. Since time does not really exist, there is no past, nor future, nor even the present. Nor can there have been anything like a creation of the world. Also, all these things that presuppose time are unreal. So we had no past births, nor shall we have any in the future, nor are we now embodied, nor can death be real. Neither can there be actions done in the past whose fruits we would reap, nor are we now doers of the action, the fruits of which would be reaped by us in the future. This is the absolute undiluted truth, as experienced by all the sages. This, however, does not affect the relative validity of the beliefs of the layman.